Hello, everybody. This is your girl T,
This is Key.
and this is our awesome guest, Mr. Ronald Rice. And then, of course, everybody knows our phenomenal producer slash engineer slash DJ Mo Height, aka Steve Lester.
Yeah.
So, in just a moment, we're going to be going live from both the New Beat Radio page, and for the first time, we're going to be going
Live from New Group.
right. So excited about that. We're extremely excited about that. So, yes. So, in just a moment, we're going to be doing that right now. You all are catching us doing our pre-show slash let's share it with everybody so we can make sure that it gets out there to everyone. So you got the our sisters and brothers that we normally support. Okay, and I'll tag our pages. Oh boy. And feel free to share your page.
Oh, yeah, I guess I kind of what I'm doing.
Go to this thing page and just hit share.
That's okay, I already tagged him. He'll be alright.
Okay.
It'll show up in
Does he have to? Okay.
Look, he ain't got to do nothing. I already did it.
Oh, right on.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us here on this thing called life at New Beat Radio, and as of this evening, also New Groove.
Yay!
Excited! We're always constantly evolving, constantly doing new things, and just trying to make sure that we connect with everybody.
Right.
Have a little bit of something for everybody.
Right.
So you wanna dive in?
Well, today we're going to be talking about community involvement and the fact that our topics are generally planned out in advance. It kind of, re-emphasizes the divine timing of things, considering the fact that, we just lost a phenomenal young man, unfortunately, to gun violence in California. And he was one man making a difference in his community. So, the fact that today's topic is where, what it is, we find it to be timely. We find it to be something that, because we often talk about what we need to do to get our children involved. We talk about, getting them motivated and sending them in the right direction and putting them on the right path. But today we're going to talk about getting the adults involved, having the adults in place to actually make a difference. So once again, for those of you who are listening on the radio, we have in the studio Mr. Ronald Rice. Woo, woo, woo. He has been with us before, and we are going to turn the floor over to him to first introduce himself to those who may not be familiar with who you are and some of the projects that you're involved in, and then we're going to just jump in head first.
Sounds good. Okay, well, my name is Ronald Rice. I'm a resident of the Riverside area Riverside Park area. So I am the chairman of the Riverside Park Master Plan Steering Committee, which is now going to be turning into the Friends of Riverside Park, and also a co-chair for the Arts, Parks, and Public Spaces for the Northwest Quality of Life, and chief fundraiser for the Riverside Parade. So those are my my titles, I guess.
It's all about Riverside.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the Riverside area actually has its own parade.
Every year since 1964.
Oh, cool. So what got that started? I'm just now hearing about it.
So-
Because I'm not from here.
No,
so.
that's fine. So, to be perfectly honest, too, which kind of goes into a lot of what we're talking about today. I honestly didn't know anything about it till last year myself. I didn't,
Oh,
never
wow.
knew there was a parade. And my family have lived off and on there for all my life, really. But again, the importance of communicating and whatnot. It's a parade. Basically, they started it to welcome the kids back to school. Is what it was. They kind of had a parade in the neighborhood. It was all local people sponsored it. They really got the schools involved, in particular Addicts, Shortridge, whatnot, and they started just doing a parade, just a little loop around on Riverside Drive, going down to I think 22nd Street and down Harding, and then back down to Birdsell. And then they have free food and games there. And so now, they've been doing it now since, like I said, 64. So now it's pretty much the same thing, except we're doing a little bit more focus on all the different things that are coming to the neighborhood, all the projects that have been done, all the renovations to the neighborhood, all the additions, all the master plans that are happening. And so you're going to see people there, like, the mayor's there every so often. Andre Carson's there. You'll see the schools. You'll see the marching bands from the schools that are there. You'll see like the Riverside Reunion. Folks will be there. I think it's Circle City Rollers, like the skating, roller skating.
Yep.
They usually skate down the street and whatnot.
Are they roller derby? Is it like a roller derby?
No, like roller
team?
skating.
Oh, so there's just like just
Yeah.
a roller skating team.
It's like
okay.
it's like their own
Like
club.
a club.
whatnot,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
You see the firemen there, the Lillian Davis Foundation. They're the ones who are actually sponsoring it this year, and from here on out, they've been sponsoring, but now they're the main sponsors or the main providers of the parade. So it's a lot of notables. They always have the Grand Master, or what do you call that?
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal. That's the word I'm looking
I'm
for.
about to say I know we live in Clan Land,
I
but
know, right? I'm sorry. Grand Marshal, yeah. So they have a Grand Marshal. So there's, and then everything ends right where the kind of the southeastern corner of Riverside Park, and they'll have booths up. A lot of people are out. You'll have a lot of different neighborhood organizations will have their own booths up. You'll have a lot of people, food trucks possibly. They typically do the food for free, but then I don't know if we're gonna have people actually selling. I'm not sure. I don't think this year though.
well, that sounds real
Yeah.
motivational
Yeah.
and
And then
really
we raise all the money
encouraging.
ourselves. Yeah, it's not anything. There's no major corporation. We go after.
So it's grassroots.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, we are looking for donations. So if you want to donate,
On the ground.
you can donate
Yeah.
to. There is a Riverside Parade page, but there's also the Lillian Davis Foundation. They have a section there where you can donate monies to.
I've heard that name since I've been here.
Yeah, Lillian Davis was, from what I understand, she was a teacher that was very active in community and involvement with the schools in particular. And she actually has a room dedicated to her in Riverside Rec Center. And then her
That's
kids.
because when I was looking at rec centers.
Yeah, that's usually where most of the, if anybody has a kind of conference or meeting, that's the room they use. And then her son, Lamar Davis, Sr., who's a pastor, and his sister, Marion Robinson, they're the two siblings from, or they're the two kids from Lillian Davis, and they're the ones who are keeping everything going. So, and they've been instrumental. In fact, Lamar was actually part of the Riverside Master Plan. So
That is
Keeping this mountain's
wonderful.
legacy alive.
That is
yeah,
wonderful.
they do a lot of good things, and they're very humble people. And they're just trying to, give the neighborhood some spark. You make sure people are getting involved, all that kind of thing. So it's been good. It's been a good thing.
That is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, to detract from, where you were going, but when you said that, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool for a whole neighborhood just to have this,
And it's usually the first weekend of September. So this year will be September, I believe it's 7th. Last year we were a week away from doing it, and then that's when they had that hurricane that hit down south and brought the crazy weather up here. Mm-hmm. So it got rained out, so we didn't have it last year.
Okay.
So literally like the days before.
So you all gonna have to turn up for 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
y'all gonna have to really, really do it. Yeah. So that means the kids get to just max out on the cotton candy, just like cotton candy sugar overload.
No. Stay. Telescopic things. I take pictures.
Okay.
We'll drop rocks off.
Okay. And just let her get her sugar overload.
Oh, Lord.
And then we'll telescopic lens.
Gotcha.
Our way.
Gotcha.
No. Okay, so you've told us about some of the things that are going on in the community.
Mm-hmm.
So before we really get into the specifics of you,
mm-hmm.
what inspired you to become involved?
So
I know the story.
You know the story, so I'll share it with everybody else. So I like me. I like to keep things very bold and honest. So I was not a community activist. Nothing. I was not involved in anything community. I've lived in Chicago, Texas, Oklahoma, Omaha, Nebraska, Atlanta, Kentucky, Washington D.C. Never got involved in anything that had to do with the community. It was all about work. That's all I ever did. And like a lot of people, and this is kind of the reason why I even brought up, even talking about this today too, I always felt like what I did was not going to matter. And that is a thing that is true with a lot of people, even listening or not listening, sitting at home. They feel like their voice doesn't matter, that communities don't get together and do anything positive. So it was actually in 2017, and you kind of know, but I kind of went through 2016. I went through a series of very, very, very traumatic experiences. My house caught on fire. 6 months later, a tree fell on my house, blew my knee out, blew my back out. So I was a truck driver, so I lost my career doing that. So I had a lot of stuff going on, and the last thing I wanted to do was do some community service. I mean, it just wasn't. I was trying to get everything else fixed, and I was actually at a Starbucks on Kessler, Michigan Road, and a childhood friend of mine who is involved in that community had asked me about being a part of the Riverside plan. They were going to come up with a master plan to change Riverside Park. And again, not only was I not involved in the community, I wasn't even involved in Riverside Park. It was not my choice park. Actually, I was a holiday park person. I even got married there. We settled upon going ahead and doing that. So I showed up, and the room was filled with power. I'm sitting in the room, and I'm a resident, and that's all I am. And I'm sitting in a room with Vice President of Marion University. I'm sitting with the head of Indy Parks. I'm with all of Indy Parks for the entire state. I'm sitting with all these pastors. I'm sitting with the head of Groundworks Indy. I'm sitting with one of the reps from the Mason Pulliam Trust Foundation. That is a huge fundraiser, philanthropist. Indigo was there. Riverside Civic League was there. Yeah, it was a lot of different people there. I didn't know any of them. I didn't know any of the lingo, and I still didn't even understand why I was even there. And they started talking about what they're going to do with the park, and they wanted everyone's input on helping to create something new for Riverside Park. And so I went. It was a monthly, one day a month, and they had public forums too. And the more I went, the more lost I became, because everything was over my head, or I felt it was over my head. I didn't know what a 501c3 was. I didn't know what, all these different land trusts and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know any of that stuff because all I really did was work all my life. So, and then I stopped going because I felt like, again, like my opinion didn't really matter, and there were more people who were more qualified, which is another issue we, as a culture, do, is that we don't feel like we're qualified enough to be a part of the conversation, and we actually are. We just have to get out of our own way. And so the part of that group was not only the developers, the architects, but it was, and us, but then there was a kind of a mediator. They're the ones who were kind of setting everything up.
Yes, sir.
A group called Engaging Solutions, and one of the ladies saw I wasn't coming, and so she actually called me. We had a very long discussion. I told her I had more important things to do, and I didn't really feel like it mattered. And she talked to me like a human being, and it kind of made me feel a little bit more wanted with the way that she approached it. She wasn't trying to force me to come back. She wasn't trying to, trick me to come back. She was really just like, what's going on? How are you feeling? Do you feel like you're overwhelmed? And I was very honest with her. I told her, yeah, and I don't know if there's anything I can really contribute that'll make a difference. She was like, no, this is your neighborhood. You need to come. So I started coming again, and then they had an historian come in and talked about Riverside Park. So for you guys who don't know, Riverside Park is the third largest regional park in the entire country. It is bigger than Central Park. It is bigger than Grant Park.
Really?
Yes.
I lived in Atlanta, so I know Grant Park is.
Now, there are different types of parks.
Huge.
So we're talking about a regional park.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying. I lived in Atlanta for 8.5 years, and Grant Park.
Oh, no, I'm talking about Grant Park in, I know about that one, but also Grant Park in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's even bigger
that's
than that
even
one.
bigger than
Yeah.
that one.
There's only
Yeah.
two parks bigger than us, and that's going to be Golden Gate Park in San Francisco and Forest Park in St. Louis, Missouri. And
Wow.
they went through a major renovation just like we're doing too. So that kind of blew my mind because when you look at Riverside Park, and you again, a lot of people who don't know Riverside Park is on Riverside Drive between 16th Street and 30th Street. So if you know where the Naval Armory, which is now Riverside High School, if you know where that is, or Marion University, we're in that area. So all three golf courses, Coffin Golf Course, South Grove Golf Course, and Riverside Golf Course, and Riverside Academy are all Riverside Park. That entire area around where the baseball fields and tennis courts, that's all Riverside Park. The Velodrome is Riverside Park. Municipal Gardens is Riverside Park.
Because that was used when the storm, well, not when the storm, but when we had that major
Snow,
snow,
yeah,
and those
people were using that
temperatures,
for,
the temperatures dropped like.
Most people know it because they have a lot of basketball tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
up there.
Okay,
Leagues and whatnot go up there. Coon Stadium, which is on the corner of 16th and it's a huge soccer field, multi-purpose field, but most people use it for soccer and for marching band competitions.
Okay.
That's Riverside Park. The Soapbox Derby is Riverside Park.
That's so much fun.
Yeah,
It's a lot
it
of
is.
fun.
And
That's
it's
a lot of fun.
And then when the historian was talking, he said, by the way, that Soapbox Derby is the second oldest in the entire country.
Really?
Yeah. So Riverside Park was actually started by Mayor Taggart. I forget the year. I'm sorry, it's slipping my mind right now. But it was early 1900s, and he did it because he built the park because he wanted to have some place where people could go and get away from all the hustle and bustle of the city, and families can reconnect. And on an average, Riverside Park had 26,000 people inside the park every single weekend. So that's how they had a 3-story dance hall. There was an arch that went over the bridge, like the Arc de Triomphe kind of structure. It went over the bridge on 16th Street, right near that Volkswagen dealership, like Falcone Volkswagen. That you can have like dinners up there. You can see the entire city from the top of that.
Oh, wow.
There was a bridge that went across the river over to the Coffin Golf Course area. Also, that Iron Skillet restaurant is also Riverside Park.
Really?
All that's Riverside Park.
Well, yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, the Irons. Okay.
Yeah, even though it's privately
Still there?
owned, yeah, it's still there, but it's probably that's Riverside Park. So all of that is, and a little bit of the history, so you have all this great stuff that happened, then you also had the bad side of it. And the bad side of it was there used to be an amusement park there, and that amusement park didn't allow colored people to come. And it was very politically known. We had a lot of racist Klan card member mayors that made that happen. So for a long time it got neglected. After black folks started moving into the area, the neighborhood was primarily teachers.
Okay, so it went from middle to upper middle class to everybody's going
Working
to
class.
the suburbs.
Working class, so it was that whole flight.
Yeah.
The white flight, they all went out, and because we started coming in, and then obviously the amusement park shut down because again nobody was attending or funding it, no one wanted to be part of it. So I remember my own parents and my grandparents would tell me about how they would get refused to go into the park, and they would call it the nickel park because it would cost you a nickel to get on the bus
To get there.
So you had a lot of that
All
happened.
the days. What we could afford.
Was that?
I said, the days where you could actually afford to go places.
Nickel, yeah. I don't know what I could buy anymore.
And when you want to talk about how long ago we're talking, Thomas Taggart, who was it was not Thomas, it was, yes it was Thomas Taggart, and he was born in 1856, and he died in office March 6th, 1929.
Wow.
So when we talk about how far back,
This goes.
Yeah.
like,
Great.
And they've been trying, like I said, over the years, the park wasn't getting, they have very good programs, especially the last 35 years. The manager there, Tony Johnson, was, really getting a lot of these kids off the streets by introducing boxing programs, basketball programs, stuff like that. So, but it wasn't getting the attention that it should have gotten because of, if you look at the scale of the park, it's just a huge park, and there's so much you can do with that. So they've been trying for 20 years to get a master plan going, and then you had, communities who wouldn't agree to it. Everyone's scared of gentrification. And that's always the big word that gets thrown around a lot. If they see money coming in the park, that means they're coming to take our houses and so on and so forth. So nothing would ever get off the ground. And so this was, a really heartfelt attempt to try to get this going. So, so now we get to where we are, and we're coming up with a plan. We go up to Millennial Park and we go see what that's like what can happen if you actually can change a park, and that's like downtown Chicago, and that park was beautiful.
It is. It truly is.
Yeah, and so through the whole process, we are basically we're having public forums because we want the community to be able to say, hey, what do you want? What do you see? Or these are our ideas. What do you think about it? What don't you like? And one of the biggest hurdles we knew we were going to have was the golf course. That was not only, Riverside Golf Course is not only the oldest golf course in the entire state, but it's also the first golf course they actually let black people play at. So, but the problem with Riverside Golf Course, it floods every single year, and it costs them more money than they're making. So that was one of the things that got nixed from the plan. So we're going to repurpose that area. We're going to keep the academy because it's one of the few tee-offs or ranges that you can play that's actually heated. Noblesville, I think, has one now, if I'm correct, but Riverside has had it first. So
let me ask, you said that was the oldest in the state of Indiana, and it was the first to allow blacks to play.
Yeah.
In the state or nationwide?
Oh, I don't know about nationwide. I just
Okay,
know about
but in the state.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or in the city, if you want to look at it that way. So, yeah, and and a lot of people have a lot of connections with that. A lot of the older people have a lot of connections with that. But golf is not trending. It's not something it's becoming less popular. So we had to look at that, and we looked at the fact that it was losing so much money, and it would cost way too much money to try and renovate it just to have very low attendance. So, so we're doing quite a few different things with that. It's not just. We decided to we had surveys. We put out surveys to kids, to seniors, to people our age to figure out what you would want there, and we came up with turning part of it into a let it flood, and turn it into a wetlands, and the benefit of that would be like everything will be on catwalks, so you'll be like basically walking over marshes and whatnot. But then, so not only is it aesthetically beautiful, but then also a lot of the schools there, which are almost all IPS, will be able to start having eco labs and biology labs there. So another
an awesome
avenue.
idea.
That was actually, I'm saying that first because that was mine.
Yeah.
But
I had to get that one out.
that's a
Yeah.
great
That was the one
idea,
idea out of the whole plan that I came up with. So, but then the other part of it's going to be mountain biking trails. The biggest thing that people asked for were trails, more walking and running trails. So we're going to be putting I want to say somewhere between 19 to 25 miles of trails through all that
That's
area.
awesome.
Walking in,
Yeah.
and biking and whatnot. And then, so there's going to be a cyclocross of mountain biking because it's so close to the velodrome. And also like a disc golf area for like the Riverside Park. And then we're moving the fields down to the south end where South Grove Golf Course is. We're moving all the fields. We're building brand new, we want to build brand new like multi-sport complexes, indoor tennis. So that way we can start actually making money. And then that'll give more jobs to the people in the neighborhood, because now these kids will be able to start working at parks. But they normally don't, especially black kids. You don't see a lot of black kids working at parks other than the pools.
Now, I did hear that there's a job fair or something, or they're looking at hiring a bunch of young people over the summer. Was it the parks or was it the different
Parks and
city?
Recreation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, and this
Okay.
isn't necessarily this isn't related to the master plan. Every year they're looking. So like, for instance, Riverside Park has a pool, and they're always looking for lifeguards, and they are looking for lifeguards. Anywhere between like 10 to 15 an hour, I believe, and camp counselors also. So they're always looking for jobs. Yolanda Eccles is the manager there. You can get a hold of her at Riverside Rec Center. So yeah, but all of Indy Parks is, but then like definitely that area is too. She's looking for quite a few responsible, at least 16 years old, preferably 18, 19, college, whatnot. Just because she's had issues in the past with the younger kids. Not you've got little kids you're worrying about. So you wanna make
Right.
sure you've
So
got
we need some
kids there.
responsible
Yeah.
individuals.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
So, with that being said, everything that we try to come up with was something that was going to basically make the park more valuable. And so we got to the park, and this was a huge project. This is basically a $120 million project.
Wow.
It is the largest project ever done by Indy Parks in this state. So this is a big deal, and it's in our area, And so we had to vote. They had to do an actual formal vote with Indy Parks Board, and they asked me to say, again, I'm still that person sitting in the rooms. I am talking more now, but I'm not really talking. And they, at one point, we had a public forum, and they asked me to speak on behalf of the residents, since I'm a resident portion of the thing. So I did, and I guess I did pretty good. So they asked me to be the speaker for the residents when we actually got to the vote. And so they had it in the auditorium there, and it was just tons of people. And they had, the facilitator actually spoke first, and then he asked me to speak. And I, again, was very clear about this was not my park of choice, and how I stopped going and whatnot. But, they invited me back, and as the more I got involved, the more I realized that my opinion did matter, and that I did feel like I was actually a part of something and not just a viewer or a bystander, a spectator. And and I kind of so I gave him kudos on that. So whatever I said, it made the head of Indy Parks cry.
Aww.
Like she literally told everybody, like she goes, I gotta wipe the tears off. I'm like, what in the world? I'm looking back, there's people wiping tears, and I'm like, oh my god. And just, one lady was like, oh, you just wrote your ticket. Like, what? But so next thing I know, they were asking me they wanted to keep the committee going, even though we got the approval, but they wanted me to be the chair. So I said that I have never been in chair of anything, and I mean anything, never. So I was a little nervous, but at the same time, I was kind of like, because I was already excited about it. And then at the same time, I was also asked to co-chair with a rep from the Museum of Art for the Arts, Parks, and Public Spaces for Quality of Life plan. And I told her, and the girl I met, she's one of those ridiculously good community activists. And I asked her, I said, I don't know what to do. There was a set thing I did in the Riverside plan. I don't know what I'm doing now. This is another thing, a completely different
larger
aspect.
scope, yeah.
And she's like, just show up. She goes, I'm not going to tell you to say anything. You can say whatever you want to say. She goes, the main thing is show up. If you show up, people start to see you more, and they start to begin to know that there's a presence there every single time, and that you are someone that they can rely on. Even if you don't say anything, just show up. When there's volunteer issues, opportunities rather, show up. So I just started showing up to everything. When they have the Ronald McDonald, they have that every year at Easter and Christmas. Fred McDowell runs that for the parents of the kids. And he lives in the neighborhood. I go to that and help out. We have cleanups in the neighborhood. I show up to that. I show up to every single meeting I possibly can. And that's in a way kind of like building your cred, even though you may feel like you don't have some kind of title or job description. You just show up. So I just started showing up, and people started to like, hey, I remember you from over here. I remember you from over here. And then you start to build a network that way. And I didn't know where this was going. I didn't know what I was doing. At the same time, I'm still now the chairman of this committee. What do I do?
Simply because you showed up.
Yeah, you showing up. And
so no, it's fine. So when the leaders of your community start to see, okay, here's a guy that just shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do speak, you speak letting them know, okay, because you said you went a few times before you actually start, because you kind of wanted to get a full understanding of the scope of
dropped
things.
out.
Dropped out, but it came back,
and then you started just kind of going back again, and then as you've over a period of time, actually just kind of being at this function or just showing up at this one, not necessarily trying to be in the heart and the thick of things, just them seeing your
just
presence.
being humble. I what I did notice, I've learned a lot now. It's been going on 2 years. And, you see people come in with this chip on their shoulder, or this black pride, or this anger of, the whole gentrification thing, or I'm going to be the savior of the neighborhood. Don't be a savior of the neighborhood. Just be part of the neighborhood. Just let them know that you are a resource, you are a help, you are a olive branch.
A resident that cares.
Yeah, exactly. And then as I was going, I started to find out I didn't know all the things that were available. I had no idea that Flanner House is part of our thing. I didn't know they had. I didn't need it, but I know people who did assistance for their utilities. They have people there. They have programs for people who are incarcerated. And try to help them get a job. They have job fairs at Flanner House. And those are just some of the things they trying to now they're getting in to try to help people with mental health issues. They have things for women's health there. Then my committee was Arts, Parks, and Public Spaces. Then we also have a food access, because that's a huge food desert there. So they're trying to get, they have this huge community garden back there. It's like a couple of acres. This thing, how big this thing is. And, he's constantly had food. I keep trying to give this away and nobody's showing up.
Okay. Now, and on a note right there, just right then and there, I will say that especially for kids who are looking for community service opportunities, I know that between CLD and my daughter also is involved with the Delta Sigma Theta Gems Academy. Yeah. They went there to do their community service and loved it. But when you talk about trying to give the food away, and they're just like, what are we supposed to do with all of this? And it was just like,
I had so many tomatoes in my house.
Yeah, but they didn't expect it. Well, I will tell you that I, being damn near a vegetarian, damn near vegan at most times, that stuff's always welcomed at our house.
Right.
Because again, like I said, I'm pretty
Mm-hmm.
much pescatarian, vegan, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and
So
you
all that
find
stuff
out-
is always welcome at our
And you
house.
start to find out things. I didn't know we had so many black-owned vegetarian or vegan food trucks
Yes.
that are coming out of that neighborhood.
And it's awesome.
You know, so like these things that people sit around like saying, I wonder why. Have you thought about going to some of your community, areas or community centers and actually showing up and seeing what's
Actually
available?
available.
You don't know. And, a lot of us live in that we base a lot of our, we have a lot of fear-based assumptions based off of ignorance. We haven't gone in and spent the time. I didn't do it, so I'm definitely a culprit of that. And you don't know how many people are actually out there trying to do good and trying to get you involved. So I started seeing all that, and it kind of got me a little more inspired to want to get out and do more. And then it was funny, I was, because I said I live in the neighborhood, so I'm sitting there one Saturday, I'm on my porch, and my daughter's sitting with me, and it's, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I ain't got nothing against any race whatsoever. I just thought this was very interesting because that's primarily a black neighborhood. And I'm sitting there, and this huge van pulls up, about 20 white kids in the van. They all get out, they start cleaning up our streets. They ain't even from the neighborhood. And I'm looking, and my daughter is like, why are they cleaning up our streets? Why aren't we doing it? And I was like, what do you say to that? Well, I mean, seriously, what do you say to that? We have an area, the Riverside area has 84 churches in it.
Don't get me started.
Wow.
I know. And so why am I only seeing kids from other churches, whether they were white or
From other
black,
ne- from
from
other
other
neighborhoods.
neighborhoods coming in? But it was in particularly, it kind of hurt your pride a little bit when you saw someone from another race coming in. You know what I mean? And not against them, but it was embarrassing. To be honest with you, it was embarrassing to see someone else come in and have to clean up our mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Because they care about the city so much until they are willing to go wherever they need to go.
Wherever the need is.
you know what I mean? So I mean, that hurt me. So part of our parts of the spaces we do. I didn't know about KIB. Again, it's another one of those things where you find this stuff out getting
What is
involved.
KIB?
So KIB is Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. They're down on the south side, but they're for the entire state or whatever. And anyhow, they are an organization that's their purpose is to try to get community involvement with keeping the city cleaner and making it more beautiful. So they have what's called a Great Indy Cleanup. In fact, it's actually this month.
I saw something about that.
So basically, you can let's say wherever you live, doesn't matter where you live. Let's say your street's never been involved in that, so you could become a block captain on your street. You go on to KIB and you register, and then they will give you tools, gloves, bags, gift cards, water, and then you set up on the day, and you can request either have a dumpster for free dropped off on your street or somewhere in the area, or have a packer truck. So one of the garbage trucks will come down, like you have an alley or whatnot. And you basically get all your neighbors together. Like we make our own flyers or whatever, and you let them know, hey, we're going to clean up our street. And we want everybody we're going to do it on this day. We'll get everybody involved. If you guys want to make it a day, like a block party almost, if you want to. A lot of people do that. But you get all this free stuff, and then depending on how well your street is and how long it's staying clean, KIB will start giving you more stuff. Like, hey, you guys want flowers? You guys want us to come and plant trees in your neighborhood? You know what I mean?
No, we don't need any more
But
trees.
you know what I'm saying?
They did my parents' neighborhood.
Yeah.
They came.
That's
remember
what.
because
Yeah.
mom had a
That's like,
whole fit
why is there
about.
a
She
tree?
woke up one morning and people were,
Well,
there's that space on the other
Yeah.
side of your
Yeah.
of your sidewalk,
Mhm.
and there's somebody out there digging, and she is like, "What in the world are you people doing?" But it was KIB, and they were planting
Yeah.
trees.
And they, they're, yes, there's all these great, wonderful bonus things, but really it's about taking care of your own street. The more that you're cleaning it up, the more you're going to not let someone else tear it down. And that's not only the trash, but it's also crime. You know, because now you're going to be more vigilant about what's happening in your neighborhood. You know, you'll be more connected with your neighbors. You know, one of the things that I thought was interesting, my mother does it, and she was like, I talk to neighbors. She lived in that house for the last 30 years, 35 years. She didn't talk to neighbors that live on the same street for that long. Now, she's just been doing it. She now knows who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are other benefits, too. Again, it's a community. So...
Okay, now you know, okay, and I not to use my family, but my mom is like damn near antisocial. It's our whole family. Anyway, but my mom can tell you who lives in what house. My mom can tell you, you know, this person's name, that person. If you want to find out, like when she was looking, my mom was trying to get us to move into a house behind her, and she was just like, oh, so and so, you know, and she told me who it was. Mm-hmm. Has given me a listing of all the houses that are available in the neighborhood. I'm like, the same neighborhood as you, I love you, but no. But again, once the KIB people came in and they started doing like the block parties and they started doing, you know, the cleanups and, you know, so they became more active. Yeah. And they started getting to know one another. I mean, my parents moved in, and so they've been there 19 years now. Mm. And she actually talks to her neighbors. There's a couple.
I'll get like that when I grow up.
Whatever. There's a couple of them that she actually, like, you know, will call up on the phone and have conversations with. And that's never. And my mom lives in one of those, you know, very diverse neighborhoods. Yeah. But at the same time, once they, you know, organizations like KIB came in, and once, you know, they all started just kind of coming together and cleaning up the neighborhood and doing, like, you know, all of these things. So that's like a legit thing, because I would have been like, I ain't talking to them people.
Right. And there's the other benefit behind that too is, and we know, you know, we found out there were seniors on our streets, on our street that we didn't realize were in dire need of help.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, us as black folk, we don't like to ask anybody for help. We
right,
that ego, that pride thing is awful. So we started finding out people who needed help. So it was actually a good way for us to be able to address some of these of a lot of the seniors that were there.
Okay, stop making me feel guilty because I don't live with my neighbors, man.
It's okay. It's never too late. That's really what it is. You can do stuff today. It doesn't even require you to have to join some organization. But again, go to find out where your community centers are, because... or what like you. Sometimes it's something that's just as basic as finding out what the name of your areas or your neighborhoods name is. Like you know, we have over our area, we have like Riverside. We have the Riverside Civic League. We have Neighbors versus Helping Neighbors. We have Planters Grove. We have River's Edge. All this Golden Hill. Those are all different names of all the different pockets that are there. But you know, so we were able to help, and you know, we also found when we did our cleanup, it would also help us find out that we had a heroin user, because we found a bunch of needles behind someone's house.
Oh, wow.
In the alley. So somebody had been coming there,
and that was their spot to use.
Yeah, and so because we do our cleanups not only with like our group with our parts of the spaces, but then we also have IMPD, give us safety. And they kind of watch the neighborhood while because you know we have kids out there, they're cleaning up. But then we have like another group called Groundwork Indie, who they actually employ kids to do community service. They live around the corner, so they're out there. And then we had the health department and DPW come down with us. Wow. So you know we actually got a lot of people dump stuff. You know, when all the contractors are out there doing stuff, they dumping. So they were out there getting all the mattresses and all that stuff. Then we found heroin needles. And then that was an indication not only that there's a heroin addict living in the area that we might be able to help, but also to be on guard, because typically if there's a heroin addict, that means there's going to be a lot of people breaking in because they need to pay for that heroin. Right. So that gave us
a dealer.
Yeah, and it turned out that same house the house had been robbed like more times than anybody else on that street. So again, it isn't just about cleaning up. I mean, we get that.
It's
but
like
also
you learn the different things that are going on in the area.
And you learn what things are available to you.
Speak to the lady across the street. Just glaring at her out the damn window.
Now, and just so you know, too, when you do the cleanups, and they give you a dumpster, you don't want to be throwing out like trash, like your garbage. Right. Because that attracts animals and all that. Right. So if you're really looking to, you know, debris, outside debris. If you've got, if there's like some couches been sitting out there for a long time, or what I'm saying, like with a lot of neighborhoods have alleys.
Well, remember that big box that's sitting outside?
Well, someone just moved into that house.
Yeah. I mean, that big box is still sitting there. It's been sitting there for a couple weeks now.
And and that dumpster is usually the one thing that kind of brings it. A lot of people are like, I ain't going to go out and clean. They see that dumpster, they'll come out and clean because they want to use that dumpster to throw stuff away. So if that helps, get the ball rolling for a lot of people, that's fine. We bring food, and food always brings folk out.
Right.
So
I have a question though. We're talking about community involvement. We're talking about one person making a difference. And, what's been dominating the airwaves has been the unfortunate murder of Nipsey Hussle. And Nippy Hussle. I want to say, because it's like Nipsey Russell, because he actually,
that's what he got.
He chose his name, just on a play on Nipsey Russell. But, so I found myself like, no, no. But the fact that to hear the chief of police or the superintendent or whatever the official title was for, I think it was the chief of police, talk about how he was a prime example of a young man that was once a part of the problem.
That was a part of the problem?
He was a gang member. He was, and he became a major part of the solution of the cleanup for that community. And how, a lot of people, because I haven't really been posting about it, but I've just kind of seen different things. But you're talking about cleaning up the parks. He was a key financier of cleaning up like where the basketball courts were, and having them painted and putting goals in, and and then just other different things around the neighborhood in addition to having his businesses, but making sure that he hired people from the neighborhood,
right?
And then remaining involved with the just making a difference, and it kind of. And he, the chief, I think it was him or the other young man that spoke, because everybody knows he was supposed to meet with them the following day, that after he was killed, but to talk about finding a way to bridge the gap,
right,
between the two. But I wanted to kind of hit on that a little bit about when you were saying one person can make a difference.
Yeah, I think that goes two ways. So one person can make a difference. So for me, those two ways I saw happen with me. One, I didn't realize that there were gifts that I had that were actually useful, and so not to go on a very long story, but so I'm 47 years old. I have always had a job. Always had a job. I always worked because that's what you're told as a black man. You're supposed to work. That's what makes you a man. You work. Now you may not. Most of us don't even do what we're actually passionate about. And so I've had 6-figure jobs, the 6-figure-a-year jobs. Working as a sales rep for a cable company. I've been homeless, at one point. And it was funny, I never found, regardless of what I did, other than one job I had in the military, I never found anything that I actually enjoyed doing. Like, I looked forward to getting up the next day. I always felt unchallenged and I always felt unpassionate about it. And I wasn't even trying to do this. And even though there are some days where I literally want to pull my hair out or I want to go punch somebody. Because working in
country,
but that's still on the table.
No, it's not. We will come find you.
So anyway, but because again, there are some where I've actually risen up I've been more into local politics, and that's a whole nother beast all by itself. But just helping out and doing things and actually seeing, because we all know. Our community, especially the black communities, we all know how disengaged we are with our community if it doesn't have to do with crime or jobs. And that's all we seem to be concerned. A lot of us are concerned about. And so when people are showing up, when you show up, not only are you being educated, but then your family's being educated. When they see you getting involved, people on your street are getting educated. People in your church are getting educated. So that's one way that I was connecting those dots with the people around me. For me, I was able to speak all the things that had been in my mind that I've been sitting around thinking. I wish people would do this or would do that. So now I get to go out and say it and be that or do it and actually have an impact. Well, even if it's not on someone else's, a lot of times it's on myself.
Well, where can people find out where all of these different, because I know based on your municipality or your city or your town, but in general, where is a good starting point to find out what meetings are going on where? Because all of these like different council meetings and all of these different types of community type meetings, they have to be published. They have to be
So it depends on who's running that area. So I don't, like, for instance, if you were to ask me, like, okay, I don't know anything about the East Side. So if you were to ask me on the East Side, I wouldn't know where to start other than looking on maybe like any.gov and looking to see like a map of the city and how it's all broken up. You can, if you know where your community center is, you can ask people in your church. You know what I mean? That may be a question you can ask the secretary of the church when they're doing the morning announcements. Does anybody know where or there's usually somebody involved, and you might be able to get that way. You can ask. You can call someone like KIB and ask them what neighborhood organizations get involved with the cleanups and whatnot, and that might give you a start. Like I said, I just happen to have someone who found me, and then that's
and just kind of help guide and walk you through
I started
the
walking
process.
Because again, all I did was Riverside at first. I didn't know about all that other stuff. Again, I never knew about Flannel House.
You just showed up when they asked you to show up, and then you just kind of went so you could hear for yourself.
Right, and that means a lot. You'd be surprised, even if you feel like you don't have something to contribute. When you have seniors who have been going to these community meetings and trying to get more people involved, and they see the same people every single day or less and less, and they see you show up, that hope that they get, from just that is, it's
to see
priceless.
that young face.
Yeah, to see that, and then to say, again, they will come up to you and say thank you for showing up. They may have tried to get you to run a bunch of different organizations, committees or whatnot, but and use your strengths. If you're somebody who is, you're good at getting networking, use that strength. If you're good at, if you're good at certain crafts, use that strength. You don't have to be a part of everything that's in the neighborhood. So I got a break. Okay,
we're getting ready to go to break.
Yeah.
Okay, and on that note, we're going to take a pause, and we're just going to take a break on both New Beat and New Groove radios. And when we come back, I'm going to maybe delve into a little bit more of your personal, which you do.
You okay?
Okay, so if you'll just give us just a few moments and join us here again on New Beat and New Groove radios.
Okay.
New
Hello, everybody. Hi.
I know about New Beat. I didn't know about New Groove.
It's good to see you all.
Oh.
It's good to see you. Good to see you. We have pretty weather down here. What is your weather looking like? The temperature is dropping a little bit, but
you say that after we had a freak snow on Saturday?
Right.
So
okay, we had a freak snow on Saturday, but can I just say I have bare legs and sandals on, so that tells you me who gets cold real easy that it was pretty nice today. Not so much now.
It was in the 60s, yeah. The temperature's definitely dropped.
Yeah, it's definitely dropped.
Yeah.
Chilly.
But congratulations to the city of Chicago for having their first black female mayor.
Mayor Lightfoot.
Woo! Yay for Chicago. You all are definitely showing the Midwest kind of how it needs to be done a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. What did my twins say? I'm truly I'm
said,
tardy.
I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. Well, we're happy that you showed up, darling. We are just happy to see you. We are, just to FYI, we're just talking with our guest, Mr. Ron Rice, about community involvement, getting involved, how to get involved. So many people, you know, like he was saying, you know, he would do, and like some of us do sometimes. It's like, I wish, but you know, wish this would happen, wish that, you know, we jump on a case and not a cause.
Yeah.
We jump on a case and not a cause.
Somebody said something similar to that too. When I was actually doing another radio show last year, and it was a pastor of a church, Pastor Gurton, and he said, you know, something that bothers me about black communities. He's black too, and I said, what? He said, you know, we always. He wanted to print out a newsletter. He said, we're always the last people to know something, and the first people to complain after it's done. And I was like, you know, that's actually true. You know, it's funny. He said we do a bad job of getting the word out before something happens, and then afterwards, all we want to do is yell and scream about it. You know, why did I know about this? Even if it's a benefit to them, and you know, so I'm glad you guys are having shows like this. Even, I mean, you can take what I say and use what's important and throw the rest in the garbage, and then the next person. I'm just hoping that whatever is shared tonight will be useful for someone. Even if it's just one person, that one person can be a huge difference for an entire area. But I mean, but the thing is to get the word out now. I mean, there's so many events and so many things that you could be doing, and everyone thinks that we all believe that we're dysfunctional, so therefore everyone else thinks that we're dysfunctional.
Well, and then there are those who are involved, and so there are those who aren't, that feel that, well, they got it covered, they don't need me.
And they need you more than you think.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
my God.
and a lot of times because people don't, you know, even within the organizations, don't let it be known, look, we need help in these areas.
A community is not a community without unity. So.
Right. You said a mouthful.
I'm just saying, it's you know, I thought that stuff was just corny until you start going to community meetings and you start seeing the same people there all the time. And it's like, God, we got all these people who live here. And
that's why it's not changing, because the people aren't involved.
No, and it's for that same reason you just said. They just think, well, you know,
they got it.
It's almost like it's almost that attitude of my vote doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Kind of attitude.
And there's a lot of that. Like you hear a lot of that, and I know that I hear a lot of that here in the city, because we do so much around town and in different with different organizations and with different events, and you know, it's just like, you know, my vote or my presence doesn't matter. So you know, why should
why would I
even be bothered?
And on the flip side, you've got a lot of people who did a lot of. Unfortunately, you got a lot of black organizations or black-run organizations that did a lot of. Some did some bad things.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that when we go back in the air.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we come back from break, then I will. I see your comment, Demetra.
That's my twin. That's my twin.
And she made a very valid point too. Some people aren't involved because no one has asked them. You kind of got, you know, ambushed, but
It's okay.
yeah.
But you were asked though.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were approached and asked has made a big difference in a lot of areas. But I love the idea about having the marsh, because that is something that will give, and continue to give over, years and years and generations.
And it's not just
down.
people, too. You're also talking about introducing forgotten wildlife. You know, because now it's a whole other ecosystem that you're basically building. Yeah. So, and then again, it may sound like it doesn't matter, but then you have black kids who've never seen a crane or a stork or, some had never seen a frog before in their life. I mean, and so think about that for a minute.
I could take them straight to the country.
But you know what I'm saying? But we're so plugged into everything.
Yeah.
I'm a big person about the parks. I've always been a hippie. That's what I've been since I was a kid. So that's a big deal for me.
You like nature.
Yeah, I love nature.
Yeah.
That's widows in our house.
And so when you're out there in those parks doing stuff, you're not in somebody else's house getting in trouble.
Right.
You're not, a lot of people, well, we don't go parks like that. Well, we don't go because we never tried, or we weren't being told to go, we didn't have an option of going.
That's what I'm about to say. We didn't have the option.
No, we didn't have the option. And the access was not there. So, now we're creating an access point for people to get into the parks and actually start seeing and experiencing things that they haven't before. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's nothing but a good thing.
How much?
30.
Okay, I wanted to ask you a quick question as it relates to, you were talking about the golf aspect of things. Now, are you all going to have like markers or like even if in some of the buildings or what have you showing the history of?
Yeah, I'll tell you about that. When we come back on to because there's actually another part of the plan that is really, I think, was one of the things that's going to make a big difference.
And we're back. Thank you for taking that break with us, and we are here on New Beat and New Groove Radios with this thing called Life. Our guest this evening is Mr. Ronald Rice of Riverside Everything, because I think he listed like 4 different organizations. Riverside Everything. I'm going to go through and read a couple of comments. Because Demetra Williams Pitt, as always, is on it.
My twin, yes.
Annette says, get involved. People don't do that anymore. So hashtag get involved, I'm sorry. And she also said, hashtag clean up to become aware.
Yes, because that was major.
Okay, and then Demetra Williams Pitt says, here in Chicago, you can call your alderman's office for additional information.
Or your mayor's advocate. That's what I was going to say. You can call your mayor's advocate. They can tell you.
And she said some people aren't involved because no one has asked them. So before we go into what it is that you do, I want to say as an off and on, because we all know I'm good for running up out of the city. As an off and on resident of Indianapolis, I know that Riverside hasn't always had the best reputation.
No, it hasn't.
So what are we doing? Because that may also be some of the hesitancy. So what are we doing to kind of change the cities? Because again, it's such a huge space. But what are we doing to change the cities? And when I say the cities, I mean just the general population, because those who live there know that the situation has changed, but the city's perception or the city's opinion of that particular area.
So this whole conversation actually is addressing exactly what you're asking. So when the city or a large organization is seeing that the community is involved, then they're going to get behind it. So I'll give you an example. And Riverside being one of them. So, again, like you said, perception is everything. You've had a lot of bad history that's been part both on, and this will all be accountable, on the city side and also the community side. People weren't taking as good a care of it as they should have. And I don't mean just like cleaning it up, because really, any parks has their own cleaning that they do. We weren't cleaning out the riffraff.
Right.
We weren't saying no to our kids.
Yes.
That's something that's a lost art now. All of a sudden, now you can say yes to some Jordans, but no to no that you can't go. You can't go out hang out with kids because I know they're bad for you. So
something I still don't understand.
Yeah. So one of the things that as I got more and more involved in community engagement, was that I started to work with. For instance, our mayor's advocate at the time. We have a new one coming soon, but they show up at a lot of the community. You'll have mayor's advocates. You may have your councilman may show up or whatever, and they started to see me and recognize what the things that I was doing. And because they answered directly to the mayor, then now all of a sudden, with all the involvement we had, our Riverside area just got voted last month the neighborhood of the month or a year or whatever, I forget what they call it. I mean, Riverside never had that honor before from the mayor's office.
Wonderful.
When you sort of little things like that, and also because we were staying so active, one of the problems with doing master plans is that it's a great idea. You have all this enthusiasm to build this master plan. So we had this huge $120 million master plan. And the first thing a lot of people out of their mouth was, that's great, but we have to fundraise all that. It's $120 million. So we actually, one of the things that just happened is that we, in the Parks Foundation, and part of our master plan was to turn the Tiger Memorial into an amphitheater, because there's not one out there. Now, was part of one of the ideas was to get an actual stage where the public could use, along with, you know, professional groups or whatever. And so we were like, okay, so how are we going to get that part funded? Because everything's broken up in like 5-year plans. So we got with Shakespeare in the Park. Now, that's not somebody you normally see in a black neighborhood, in black anything. You know, a lot of people don't see that. They usually associate Shakespeare with, you know, the white culture. So Shakespeare in the Park wants to get involved on that side of town, doing more of what they do, which is, you know, doing theater. Mm-hmm. So they partnered with Indian Parks Foundation as part of this our master plan, and they came up with a proposal for the Eli Lilly Endowment. Well, we won it, $9.2 million.
Oh yeah, we want that.
Yeah, no, we won it. We actually got it. Yeah, we won.
Hot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got that. Yeah.
I thought you said you won it.
No.
I was like, yeah, we won
Yeah,
that.
it was last year, and you know, the Little Endowment, you know, I forget how much, like $44 or $55 million that they give out, but we actually won the largest amount out
That
of
is
all the
phenomenal.
groups. So that's to build this portion of it. So now Shakespeare in the Park is now part of our programming, and so they're going to do probably 2 shows a year. But the rest of the time is going to be for public use. So now we're going to have an outdoor amphitheater to have concerts, to have poetry, to have open mic. Yes, it is coming. It'll be here next year. The construction starts in July of this year. So as part of so it's going to renovate the memorial, which is what the Tiger Task Force has been trying to do for 20 years.
Wow.
And so that's going to be renovated, and it's going to be a theater there, and it's all grassy. And think of like the White River and whatnot. Okay. But it's going to be in our neighborhood. So now if we want to have Layla Hathaway come and do a concert, we got a venue to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, and yes, I'm a Layla Hathaway fan.
Yes, Layla.
But
yes.
you know, but not only
Just fall over.
not only that, if you got a choir, you know, or you're a gospel choir, we want to have a gospel showdown over
Explosion,
there. And we want to have rap, you know. So one of the good things too is that the manager of Riverside Park, her name is Yolanda Eccles, she's also a published poet. And she promotes that every 3rd Friday. She has youth arts where they do any kind of arts, visual, spoken word, whatever, up there. And so we're going to try to start having that out there. So it's not just about getting out here and perform, but also to start having classes on how to speak in public, how to have good stage presence, how to do good blocking, how to do lighting, and then there's other opportunities behind that as well. So now we can have kids out there learning how to stage production. Sound engineering, because you know that's what's going to happen there. So this has multiple benefits than just having a stage. Now we have another avenue to teach kids something. You know, let's just be honest. We have a lot of kids who want to go into music. Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to be a rap star, and that's fine. But you know, being a rap star and just writing some lyrics, getting up there and doing something. Do you understand diction? Do you understand stage presence? Do you understand blocking? Do you understand projection? So on and so forth. So. And on the other side of that too, maybe you don't want to be a rap star. Maybe you want to be the one mixing or whatnot. So now you have an opportunity to be able to see how it's done, you know, behind the stage, or how to set up a stage. You know, it's carpentry. You got lighting. There are so many opportunities that can be done here. And so I've actually spoke with the head of. Again, this is what I do. That's really well. I network like hell. That's what I do. So I say now I have the head of Shakespeare in the Park, Diane Timmerman, is now my co-chair with Arts, Parks, Public Spaces, so that we can start doing more community engagements. By the way, they will be doing Hamlet this year in July and August, and the lead is black. And the cast, he's from New York, and then 2 of the cast members, 2 or more of the cast members are black actors and actors from here. So, and that was one of the things they wanted to do was, okay, we wanted to have something that's Shakespeare that we love dearly, but also we want you to see it in your own faces.
We want them on.
Well, it's going to be free. It's going to be
talking about no. We want to so that we can, you know, push it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they're going to set up a mobile stage there because they're going to be working on, you know, fixing that, building that stage. But they're going to put a mobile stage out there. But that's going to be free. So again, now we have theater in a black neighborhood that didn't have it before.
I love the fact that it's outdoor.
Mm-hmm.
One.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you don't have the stigmas of, okay, well, we got to use this church gym.
Oh, yes.
So there are certain things that
Oh,
you
my
can't
God,
do,
yes.
certain
Mhm.
things you can't.
No.
Or
I mean, mind you, now it's still on public.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's like, because even though there are 84 churches in the area, not everyone's belief is Christianity.
Right.
So it takes away the limitations of who can utilize
Mm-hmm.
the space.
And more importantly, is progress. Again, like you just said. So it's funny. It's interesting that you said the first thing you said was, you usually have them in churches, whatever. That's so stereotypically black. And I'm not saying it in a bad way, but it's just the truth.
Yeah.
And so now, we keep talking about how we want these certain things. We want to live this American dream. We want to have these American opportunities. And so now we're actually, not only do we have an opportunity to do that, but then we're actually the one controlling it. And that's where community involvement. So me, again, I was a resident. So that I get to the point where people were calling, and again, this is no ego, because I don't want this title, but I was being called the president of the neighborhood. I'm like, oh, slow down. I'm not president of anything. I ain't getting paid for any of this, by the way. This is all free. So
now we get into what it is that
yeah. Yeah. So we're doing that, and for me, I was becoming, because I speak a lot, I was becoming kind of the face of the neighborhood for my age. There are other ones: Peggy Gamlin, Michael Sahier, Rachel Lewis, Brandon Cosby. There's so many other faces. Fred McDowell, people who have been in the Riverside area, who have done great things for years that need to be acknowledged. But at the same time, you have, for me, this was my own story coming in. And so I grew up in an area where I wasn't, I was in a very integrated area. I went to North Central High School, and I hung around black and white and Jewish and European people all the time. And so for me in that neighborhood was very much kind of in its own little world. And someone like me, is a lot of other people who come in and before me and even after me, they are introducing that area to, like, hey, we don't have to just be this stereotype where we just sit and keep our doors closed, and we only get together when there's a shooting. We only get together when there's some free concert or whatever, or it's only church. It's not that. We are now getting involved in things that are actually showing, giving us a chance to actually show that we can make the same kind of things. Yeah, we can improve our own neighborhoods. We can control the tempo. We can not only hold the people who are coming in accountable, but we can hold ourselves accountable too. And that's been a big challenge.
You're now you're no longer just residents of an area, but you're actually neighbors.
Yeah, because one of the things you learn when you get into a community, if you don't know it already, is that, again, I try to keep stuff real. We have a very bad crab in the barrel mentality. It's bad. It's real bad. And there were days where I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I would take a week or a month off. I just couldn't do it, But you have to remember why you're doing it. And it'll be that one moment, time I talk with someone that kind of energize me. But, there have been so many opportunities that have been missed because of fear and ignorance, because of jealousy and envy, because of egos, a lot of egos. You got people who come in and they want to save the neighborhood. And they want their name on everything. You got people who come in and they say that they're for your neighborhood, but they're really for themselves. You got a lot of ministers who are doing that, that are doing it in that neighborhood. You know what I mean? So, but it's, at what point are you doing it because, like for me, I don't do it I don't feel like I'm doing it for any selfish reason. And I always try to say to myself whenever I do anything or I talk to anyone, what would love do right now? Not
humility elevates you.
Yeah, it does. It does.
That is the reason why, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. As a PK, when you have these boisterous individuals that come through, these loud voices that are good at amping, getting people, I like to call them hype men.
Mm-hmm.
Especially those Sunday morning hype men.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of people that are good at hyping, but then when they realize that they're going to have to put their boots on the ground, or when they realize that I'm not going to get a check for this.
Whenever they got to sacrifice something.
Right.
Yeah.
When they realize that, okay, I might have to give that my last $5.
Right.
Then a lot of the hype men kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And
they become hope men.
Right. Right. So. And then it's like, the Lord will provide. Okay, He provided with that $5 that you didn't want to give out of your pocket.
And He provided with you with a heartbeat to get up and start doing something.
Right, right. So I applaud you and those other individuals that are pushing.
And there are so many of them out there.
I applaud you.
There are so many people who are out there that have been doing this for years and have never received any recognition whatsoever. And they're doing, like I said, for instance, Fred McDowell. He and his wife have gotten together with their church. I think it's Mount Olive Church down on 16th Street, and they feed all the parents of all the kids who like if you're from out of town, Raleigh's hospital is such a huge thing. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you come in, a lot of times they don't have money for food or a place to stay or whatever. So he hosted dinner there for Easter and for Christmas, and it's all volunteer based. Everything, the food is all donated. Everybody there. This last one they did, IMPD and Mayor Joe is out there constantly. And he's never asking for any recognition. He just does because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And that's just something we have forgotten as a culture. What's the right thing to do for all of us, not just for me? I was telling you this, but somebody said something to me right when I was starting all this community service, and I was thinking about why am I doing this? Like why am I doing this for free? Why am I putting up with all this? Some of the idiotic stuff that goes on, and then how am I impacting? And why was I given these gifts to do these certain things or whatever? And what's it for? And I was talking to someone. He said, it's funny. We always talk about about blessings, and we always pray to God for blessings too. He said maybe you should stop for a moment and think about what that blessing really is for. Maybe it's a blessing through. Maybe through you are blessing another community or another individual or another resource.
Generation.
Exactly. So when you stop and think about it like that, that in itself is a blessing. That being the right thing, that is happiness. That is contentment. That is satisfaction. That is job satisfaction. It isn't always about what you're going to get. You're going to get a pat on the back. You're going to get a compensation. What are you doing? We all go around screaming and hollering about how we are Christ-like, but we're not doing Christ-like things.
Well,
so, it's not a bad idea to sometimes step back and say, I don't have to be a part of a church to do this. I don't have to be part of this family to do this. I don't have to be part of this race to do this. I'm doing it because as a human being, I see people who are suffering. I see people who can receive help. And you know what? I'm a talker, or I'm a networker, or I'm a gossiper. Or I'm a doer. I'm a helper bee, or whatever. I can go out and do this.
He said a helper bee.
But but you'd be surprised all the people who do it. People aren't coming to
all ants.
Hey.
Because the ants work together.
Yeah.
And service
for one cause.
Service to others is the rent we pay for the life that we are given.
Yeah. And it's funny, I don't go home every day like, oh, that was a great feeling. Some days I'm like throwing stuff. She knows. Some days I'm pissed at the way our people and the other people act. I'm pissed that when I actually find out about what's really happened in the neighborhood, and it's taken 30 or 40 years for us to get to this point, like this could have been solved if people got out of their own damn way. We had neighborhoods against neighborhoods that all it did was show, to answer your question earlier, City Hall, that we're just, in their mind, a bunch of wild animals. We're uncivil. We're not easy to get along with. We don't play well with others. We don't like authority.
Heck, saying we don't play.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And
if,
and so people going around screaming about gentrification, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, wait a minute. Your neighbor's going to get taken over if you allow it to get taken over. And if you don't unify, it is going to be taken over, because no city is going to allow an area that black people moved into the inner city, where those houses are now, like you're seeing down on Alabama and Delaware and all the other streets. Those houses are now they were good houses when they were built, and now they're historic, or they're cheap. And because we let them turn into crack houses, and nobody wanted to be involved with them, and no one wanted to invest in them, and with our own, we basically own it. We have families that own a lot of these houses. So now they're coming in and they're selling them, $500,000 in a lot of cases, or more. And everybody wants to scream, they're coming to take it, but we allowed them to come and take it over.
Right, we took that check.
No, but it's not that. No, we didn't. We did not invest. So people have been pushing, black folks have been pushing investment clubs for years. A lot of that stuff you find out at a community. A lot of places have housing committees. They tell you all this stuff. So we could have been, I've had the money to go buy a house. A lot of them houses you could have bought at a tax sale for maybe $1,000 or whatever. If you had an investment club where everyone was chipping in maybe $10 or $5 or $20 or whatever, or when everybody gets their taxes, what are we spending on? Dumb stuff. But we could have been putting it in our own neighborhoods, and then at the same time we weren't spending the time educating ourselves. So now we didn't know about taxes. We didn't understand about the ways you could pay your taxes so that you don't end up having your house taken away from you. We still don't understand about violations on the house that can have your house taken away from you. No one's getting all that. No one's understanding no one's trying to understand it as much as the other races are. And so they're coming in because they understand it, and they see the opportunity and they're taking it. You would take it too if you understood. If you had the means and the education, you would do it too. So,
but we won't come out when, and those of us that are aware, that try to teach, that we won't come out to learn.
No, because it's a pride issue. And it's funny, and I'm not defending them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending the people who are coming over. But at the same time, if you don't get out and participate, how are you going to know they're coming in at all? Right. How are you going to know what's available? Yeah, you might find out, oh my God, this house has been abandoned for the last 10 years. I'm sick and tired of it. I just wish somebody would get rid of it. I say, I've been trying to sell it for $500 for the last 10 years. You could have bought it and would have turned into a $20,000, $30,000 profit on it, just because you now owned it and it's not abandoned anymore. Stuff like that. But there's no education going on, so people are just kind of angry for no reason, or they're angry and they're not looking at what is actually what they could have done. Then they're angry about that. I'm like, okay, you can't have it both ways. You're gonna have to. So what we're doing is we're trying to get people involved. So like this whole park plan, all this stuff is coming. All the different things. There's gonna be an outdoor skating rink there. And I don't mean like just like inline. I'm talking about 4-wheel, like you go to the rink. Outdoor skating rink.
That's awesome.
You know what I'm saying? So
I can go fall and get back into the
right.
Because take it back to childhood where you back in the day where you were able to get out there.
And so to again to answer your question about what am I doing to help become more visible to that was so I didn't know how to run through this whole thing. They asked me to be chairman. I didn't know what I was doing. So my first thought was, okay, Riverside Park, no one really likes it. As much as the people in the community like it. No one else was really giving a damn. So we have this park, and we have only a couple programs that are really popular, which is very typical black neighborhoods: basketball, football, and I don't even know what the third one would be, to be honest. I think we had boxing for a while, but they had volleyball there. And like line dancing, stuff like that, right? So my thing was, because I come from a background of alternative sports, I did triathlons, I did Spartan races. I like to try different stuff. So a lot of people look at, oh, that's like white people's sport. I see every sport we go into, we dominate. So at this point, why are you even up?
Why do you let that leave your lips?
Right, you know what I'm saying? But you'd be surprised. And so I started working with Sharon Clark from Butler University. She's the head volleyball coach. She's black. And she's already bought a lot of property in the area. And so we started to work on a lacrosse program so that her and her husband actually bring lacrosse programs over. It's very big with black folk over on the East Coast. So we're trying to bring it in here. And the reason why we're bringing it here isn't just to bring something new to Riverside Park, a new program, because that's alone is great. But then also we're giving City Hall, say, hey, we're doing something else that breaks your stereotype, your visual of us. Two, with all those high schools, or three, with all those high schools that have closed now. So you have what, Northwest closed, Northwest High School, all those, when they closed the schools last year.
Yeah.
So now, remember, a lot of our boys and girls were going on scholarships based off of basketball and football. That's now got cut down to a select few. So now you have kids who may not have opportunity to get a scholarship at all at athletic. So, but then we found, then we've known this, but we haven't been pushing this. Places like Harvard are very good at giving, very big on giving a full ride to someone who does, a black person doing rowing.
Right.
Or lacrosse.
Right.
Or biking.
How you think all that stuff was going on with these nice parents that were buying their students education?
Basically. But you've got this. So now we have another avenue and then we have the right place to do it. We've only got the velodrome, so they can be learning stuff, and the mountain biking is coming through, and all the biking clubs. But then we also have the lacrosse program. We've got White River's right there on, so we can be doing rowing. And so I have been networking with the Friends of White River Park. I've been networking with all of the congressmen and councilmen and mayor's office, with Marion University, with IU and Butler. I bring them to the table. I'm like, okay, what do you have to offer? What can we offer you? What can we do together? You know what I mean? Because obviously they want a stake in the park too, because everybody wants to have their name on something.
Of course.
But at the same time, how's it going to benefit the community? So, we try to start a program called it's called a Walk with the Docs program, where we talked to IU first about getting. It's a national program where they have walking groups, but they'll have a doctor actually go with you in the walking group. So you can ask questions to them, whatever. So that's a good way for IU to, one, make themselves more public and more accountable with the residents in the area, and then also, two, the area residents have something else to do, and they also have another organization that they can kind of tie into. But then also, we look down the road, like, if they really like that, hey, we need 16 miles of walking trails. You guys want to give us a couple $1 million? I mean, you're in the park all the time. You know what I'm saying? There are other ways you can, do that. Maybe they want to do it for us. So there are so many different ways that you can make your area more valuable without just cleaning it up, but without just cleaning out the riffraff. You can make your area more valuable by being more active in it. There are more activities in that park than the people from places you never thought of would start looking. Like, hey, I like what you guys are doing over there. We give out grants for X, Y, and Z. And you don't know. Like now, I'm literally getting emails all the time about all the grant opportunities. I'm like, I didn't know there were this many grants for it. And people are like, yeah, they do it for what you guys are trying to do it for the park. Yeah, we got this grant for that. There's a grant for this. I'm like, oh, okay. There are people who are interested. You asked during the break about what way we're going to memorialize what's been there. So we haven't decided, for instance, on the golf course, how we're going to do that. But one of the big things of the master plan is to do a promenade. So from 16th Street all the way down to 30th Street to where the Naval Armory is, if you think about Central Park, they have that huge walkway in the middle where it's just tons of people, it's just activity. So we're doing that, but we're doing it on Riverside Drive. So it's going to be on the west side of the street. It's going to be about 20 to 30 feet wide. Then it's going to go all the way down. So there's street lights and everything. So it's going to be more of an active walkway going all the way down. But then every so often down it, we're going to memorialize someone famous from the area. So Oscar Robinson or Bertha Ross or Frank Young, Julia Carson. Like it's someone there that symbolizes what Riverside meant to them and whatnot. So that's one of the ways we're going to do that. As the tennis courts are already named after a very famous black Indiana tennis player, and his last name is same as mine, actually, is Rice. But we're going to keep his name when we actually do the tennis courts, hopefully, to the new ones. But for right now, his name has been revoted in to be to state the name of that. So it's little stuff, but each project that we do, we're going to open up to the public to decide if we're going the right direction. What do they want to see? How can we memorialize it? How can we get them involved so that everyone's taking ownership? There has to be some kind of inclusiveness with everyone, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, because people need to know that all of this beauty that you all are seeing, it's historic.
Mm-hmm. It's very historic, and it's necessary. One thing that I'm doing now is that we're turning into the Friends of Riverside Park. Is that we've had mostly all those people I was telling you about.
Yes, sir.
And they're still on our board. But now I said, this park isn't just, we're talking like a bunch of seniors as if we're going to be around the next 20, 30 years. We probably, a lot of us ain't. But these kids are, and this park is actually for these kids. And everything that we bring into this park are for these kids. So myself and two other people had said, we should bring more youth onto our board. And so what we came up with is that I got the first guy there. His name's Chris Sharp. He's from Marion University. He's a wrestler. He's black. He's also a poli-sci major. And he's already trying to figure out what he's going to, when he graduates, what is he going to do? How is he going to be able to use his degree in a way that's going to help our people or our neighborhood or whatever. And so this is getting him introduced, and we're going to try to find a way that maybe it could work towards his, like it may work kind of some kind of credit, towards his, I don't know,
Even
what
if
we can, but regardless, he's going to do it anyway because he just wants to be a part of it. But then he gets to see those process, the local politics and how communities get involved so that he becomes a better, if he does become a congressman, he'll be a better congressman because he was involved in something like this. And his vote amongst the other kids, we're going to get some kids from Addicts, Riverside High School in that area. There are also girls and boys, different races also, because that is a multicultural area now. We want to get them on that board too, so that they're able to say their word or their thoughts and their ideas are actually valued. So you don't have people getting to my age where they realize what they felt like I was of no value at all. So now we get them involved, because you hear a lot of us older say, why aren't the kids involved in a lot of these things? Okay, well then here's an opportunity to get these kids involved. You know what I mean? And then they can go back to school. Yeah, give them a voice.
Be surprised at just how wise some of them are, even in their young age.
And how eager they are, but no one is giving them a platform. It's usually just a school-based platform, and they don't really get involved. Because a lot of the older, especially us, a lot of older black folk is, no, I got this, you don't understand.
You're a child.
You're too young to say, take your ego.
They understand more than we do nowadays.
Yeah, and for that matter too.
Yeah, when those are on.
And for that matter too, we are not as good with social media marketing like they are. So for us to get the word out nowadays, you're gonna have to have a social media presence. And I'm sorry, but a lot of these 50, 60-year-olds don't know what they're doing. They just don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. So I want someone in their teens and 20s and 30s being able to grassroots those type of things out. I think it's a great marriage between us and them. So yeah, those have been sort of the best ways to get places like City Hall and congressional support and stuff like that. And I've been meeting with them on an individual basis too, because I just want to talk to them and see, how are they going to be involved and what can they do and how can they help.
So you ask folks, what's in your mind?
And I'm telling you, I've heard some interesting from our congressman. I met with Senator Taylor, and he talked about Tarkington Park and how when they did that renovation of that park, a lot of the black kids did not want to come back to that park because they didn't feel like it belonged to them. And it wasn't any intention on that. That's just how our culture is. And so we feel like if something new comes in, it can't be for us. So they weren't going. So they had to restart some programs at Tarkington just to get the kids to come back.
Well, now I will say, because I was involved in the Tarkington Park area, and I was involved with some of the that was going on over there, and when they did do the revamping, one of the things that they did was they fenced off certain areas, and they took down the basketball courts, and and then they put in a dog park. And we're like, okay, well, we have these dogs. We have dogs that walk us. I mean, especially in that area. You know, you got the big hung. You got the big, huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not putting them in a dog park together because that's just not smart. But one of the things that Tarkington Park, from the time I was young, was known for was the basketball tournaments. You know, street ball, and then just the neighborhood. You know, that was where everybody was, whether it was good or bad. That's where everybody was, and everybody was out there. They were all out there playing ball. Males, females, you know, the females out there, you know, trying to be cute, looking at the guys playing basketball, and, you know, all the different tournaments. And even just, you know, warring neighborhoods, you know, warring factions within neighborhoods were all, you know, all out there, you know, in the park or whatever. So when they came in and they did the revamp, and, you know, and then we're going to do this over here, and we're going to do this over here, and we're going to put a brewery in, and they're just like, what?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with it. I heard about that, but I'm not too familiar with that side.
So they took all the character away from the park
They
itself.
took away the things that made we appreciated the upgrade to the equipment, because I'm gonna tell you that merry-go-round
It was scary.
Man, let me tell you, you know, it's one of them old fashioned where the kids
The
grab the
metal,
bars and
it's
they
like
run
run
around.
around.
Yeah, they got to jump on.
Okay, but at the same time, while it's running around, it's doing this. So it's not just going around, it's doing this. And I can remember being a teenager going, we're going to die. You know, and it was still that way. Like, I can remember taking, because my grandmother was over in that area. That's why I knew the area so well. And I can remember, you know, running up the street to the park. But even, you know, my child, I can remember taking her, you know, before they did the renovation, up there, and, you know, the kids got on the merry-go-round, and I'm like an idiot. I got on the merry-go-round, and it was still wobbling, and I'm still going, oh, we're still going to die. We're getting off this thing, because it's still not safe. But and I think that becomes a fear. When you want to come in and you want to change things up.
Mm-hmm.
And Tarkington was a prime example of going all the way left in the opposite direction. Because, yeah, they didn't want to come back. Because it wasn't designed for those who was supposed to service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it became less about the people who were running up and down 40th Street.
Right.
Because really 40th Street is almost a dividing line
Mm-hmm.
in that area. 40th Street, I mean, and you know, there are people, you ask them where they grew up, I grew up on 40th Street. 40th Street is almost like a dividing line in that area. You know, they talk about the Butler Tarkington area, you know, and the Kessler Meridian area. So, but that's all essentially all meshed in there together.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you cross that 40th Street line, you know, depending on how far, you know, west you go, but when you cross that 40th Street line, okay, so now you've gone from Butler Tarkington to Meridian Kessler. So now, when they redid Tarkington Park, they catered more to the Meridian Kessler than the Butler Tarkington. And that's where the issue came in. So, because they did it there, and they've done it at a couple of other parks. So, yeah, I understand where the hesitancy, but then again, that comes back to the community involvement.
Right.
Because
and that's the reason why we're staying vigilant with that. Like, that's the reason why we're keeping residents as part of, and not corporations or not, you know, huge entities as part of the board that are making the decisions. Because of things like that.
Yeah.
You know, like it's one interesting. I found this out from one of our congressmen actually was telling me this. He said, you know, do you guys know the history behind Tarkington Park? I said, what do you mean? I think he said, you know why there's that? Remember that big hill was right in the middle of it?
Yes.
So do you know why that hill was there?
Because it was fun to go sledding. I don't know.
So again, this is just what they said. I don't know how true it is, but considering the source.
Disclaimer, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But I was told that back in the day, because you know how close that area is to the Meridian, you know, street and whatever.
It was a barrier.
No one wanted to see the Negroes playing ball, so they put that hill there so you couldn't see them.
I can believe that.
Yeah, and it was Mayor Hutton.
Yeah, he was a really interesting character. But let me tell you.
I can believe that.
Let me tell
Now
you.
again, I don't know how true it is, but it's, you know, it's just interesting.
But see,
Well, let me
they
tell you
from
what
the
we did.
South.
Yeah.
We went up on that daggum hill.
Yeah.
And we played on that daggum hill.
So
And we
had to
rolled
get
down
away.
that hill. And then when it was snow, because I can remember coming here as a kid, and running down the street, because my grandmother was literally, Tarkington Park is on Illinois, 40th and Illinois is one end of one part of it, and then the other half is like 40th and Meridian.
Yeah.
My grandmother was on Capitol, so it goes Capitol, then Kenwood runs partially through there, but it's Capitol, Illinois, and Meridian.
And so you talk about the house on the corner?
On my grandma's house. So, because my grandmother was right there on the corner of 40th and Capitol, little white house. And so I can remember going to grandma's house. Hi, grandma, bye, grandma. And I'm running down the street. I can hear her fussing at me as I'm running down the street. But I didn't hear stay in the park. But I can remember running down there, and I can remember because we didn't have sleds and stuff back then.
Right.
And
grab a couple boxes and
we
make
was a little
it.
crazy. We did stuff,
Make it do
But
what
I
it
can remember. That's what I was saying. Trash can list. I can remember going up on that hill.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember we would play all up on that hill.
Right.
I'm looking at folks and running up and down the hill and rolling up and down the hill. And when it would snow, because we got some hellacious snows here, sliding down those hills.
Mm-hmm.
So they may not have wanted to see us.
Well, they saw you.
But they saw us.
Yeah.
They saw us. And as far as they didn't want to see the ones that were over there playing basketball, that's okay, because we would sit up on that hill and we would watch the ones down there playing basketball. So they still had to look at us.
But I know, that was again one of those weird times in history that you had stuff like it happen. But now my thing is it isn't just about trying to impress someone in City Hall. My thing is inclusiveness. How can we get our residents, our kids, our whomever involved more in the programs that we have to offer in our neighborhood and have to quit driving out to go do it? How can we have that so that it's something that we own? So our neighborhood now has yoga in the park. You know what I'm saying? That's where the goals I'm trying to go at. I want to be able to drive to Riverside Drive and see 50 black people out there doing yoga. I want to see 100 people out there meditating. You know what I mean? I want to see kids doing martial arts. I want to see kids doing lacrosse in that park. And it's programs that we brought in and that we are participating in. And so we take ownership of it. Because otherwise, if we keep going like we have in the past, where we want to sit on this platform and say, I only do this, this, and this, and you can't, and I always want to push everybody back. Eventually, because no one's unifying,
Right.
Somebody's going to come in and they're going to make that park into what they want it to be. And so my thing is, okay, there's actually good things about, I think I'm kind of the right person because I actually like those kind of sports. And I also like the traditional ones. I'll still play basketball. At the same time, I want to go do a 20-mile Spartan race. Don't ask me why. I'm crazy in the head like that. I just like stuff like that because it's a challenge. So it's good for me to be there. And because I like that stuff, my passion kind of, you can see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. And it works out.
But the other thing about that is, even when we talked about doing this show, not just this particular episode or this particular segment, when we talked about doing the show, this thing called life, I had some hesitancy. And one of the things that the elders, and that's what we call the elders in my family, we call them the elders, and they are over in that area. And what they said was, if you build it and you let them know, they will come.
Yeah.
Because you sitting up here talking about yoga in the park, and I'm like, I'd come to Riverside for that.
And you'd be surprised how many people. It's funny. I was shocked to know how many of us as black folk won't even admit that we do yoga, or on the same month, I found out a lot of people who are heavy in the church think, yoga's of the devil.
Yep.
Man, don't get me started on that.
And I was like,
we're not going to get started on
right?
church.
No, I understand.
That's not this program. That's not this one
right,
today.
I understand. I understand. Believe me, because I was the same way. But it was funny. I was like, okay, so we don't have these programs because of faulty thinking like that, and because of that, we're missing out on opportunities.
They're
what
not
yoga
wanting
does,
to understand the balance of the science and the biology
Exactly.
of what is actually taking
Right.
place when all of that is going on.
Yeah.
And see, the reason she was hawking me is because there was a post a couple years ago, and someone put up a meme talking about, all of this is witchcraft, and yoga was on it, talking about chakras was on it. And so I went in and I was like, well, if that's the case, then why do the preacher always turn around and have a scarf around his neck after you get through sweating? Why is it that he always got something on his head after he gets through? I said, because those are the open portals of the body, and so they need to be protected. I said, that's part of the biology of the body that was made and created. So you need to have an understanding of this before you start trying to make everything witchcraft.
Right.
Because when they get to talking, things like, numbers and crystals and, as you said, and metaphysics, which is all about, the body and just, nature and but it's all talked about
In the scriptures. Well, not only that, but look at how our elders lived to be 100 plus, 90 plus.
Yeah.
And we're not even making it to 50 because we have the answers to everything, but they used nature
for everything.
And they were outside more.
Right.
And again, it's one reason why I push parks so much, because just being outside changes your perspective on things. Sometimes the best way for me to deal with a bad argument with somebody or a bad day
Walk it off.
is I'll go to Holiday Park and go walk those trails in the back. I do personal training. I take a lot of my clients back there to go work out. I go and we do the trail alongside Riverside, going up along White River or whatever. You know what I mean? And you just can be by yourself. And I put my music on, and I'm just. And it got to the point now where I was preferring that moment, that hour of my day over the rest of the day. So hopefully we'll get that. I think we're doing it now. I think we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Now, and there are so many people involved, and we're having a lot more of our meetings now. We're making Riverside Park and Watkins Park and some other parks in the area more visible, so that people know. It shocked me when I went to that meeting I was saying about the other day. It was a neighborhood that has been disconnected from all the other neighborhoods for years, and they didn't even know. People have been living there 30, 40 years. They didn't know they had all these programs that were free over Riverside. They didn't know they had chair aerobics and line dancing for either $1 or it's free. They were just looking at me like I was nuts. I'm like, why don't you know this? And
you live less than 10 minutes away.
They had somebody, and again, egos.
Yeah.
They had somebody black who's keeping them from that information. A lot of people don't leave their house. They go to work and they come home. They go to church, they come home. They go to the store, they come home. They don't want to get involved in anything else. And so they'll believe whatever you tell them because you're coming off as the person who is looking after them.
Knowledgeable about the world and everything around them.
And these are the politics I've been having to deal with too. And the lessons I'm having to learn, this is why this isn't getting done. This is why this is moving so slow. This is why I'm getting pushed back on whatever. So it's interesting. It's a very interesting thing going on. So, but you were asking me about personal stuff. What were you?
Oh no, I was asking you what it was that you were doing personally.
Oh.
So you actually went into it without me having to. Yeah, no, I was not going to dig into your personal.
Oh no, I knew you were there. I didn't drink enough wine for that. So.
We got another bottle over there. I'm just saying, But no, and again, I think it is just one of those things. What did Twin say? Oh, he said you just preached. Yeah. And this is giving is the best part of life. I just honestly believe, because again, we are heavily involved in community service and in doing things. I think that I can't speak for all the members of True Black Girl Magic, but I know that we have a couple of events that we want to do. I think that Riverside would be an awesome area to do.
All you have to do is so you guys know me. So you can say, hey, you know what, we got some events, send them our way. Then we can put them on. Like, for instance, so one of the things that we did for through the Northwest Quality of Life was we actually started, we hired a marketing team, and then they actually started a print newsletter and a website. And so now we're posting a lot of the events or things that we're doing there. We're trying to get out to more people, because that's what's been the biggest issue. The biggest problem with the community community events, services, whatever, is that the outreach is not, people aren't responding to the outreach. Now, a lot of them want to come. They don't know, like you were asking, who do I get a hold of?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? Sometimes you tell someone, hey, there's a community center here. Oh, that's great, and that's it. But then you say something, hey, there's a community center here, and today's a housing committee's meeting through that community center, and they're going to talk about who's coming over here to buy up all these houses. Next, we're packed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the ways we found out. We had a situation where like 60, 70 houses got bought in like one day, by some one entity off on the West Coast or whatever. And in terms of there was some slum lord. And if it hadn't been for the people that we have involved, you have some people who are overzealous. They're like super community people. But one guy in particular works for a mortgage company, so he's really in on how the whole housing thing works, more so than I know. And that's the whole purpose of the community thing. You have a collection of people who have different skill sets. This guy in particular is very good he's a Google freak. He is a researcher. He's that person. You want to know what that house is? I wonder how much the house is. Oh, it was been on the market for the last 74 and a half days, and it was at one point it was $10,000. Now it's like 12. And then he knows all that stuff. And then we found we were able to get a huge, what do you call those guys? Like not the slumlords, but those I don't know, the predator. They were buying up houses and selling them for nothing, and basically tearing up the neighborhood. Yeah, we got them banned. They can't buy any houses over there anymore. You'd be surprised what a community center getting involved will do. You may think it's not possible, but trust me, you may not be the one who has an answer, but there's somebody there who probably does, or somebody who knows how to ask that question. I don't know all the answers that have to do with parks. I'm in a very important position right now, and what I'm doing makes a difference. But at the same time, I don't know everything, so I go get people who do. So I get, I have my own little kind of unofficial team of people. For my heart and soul, and why I do this, I talk to Deb Lawrence for the vice president of Marion University. We have once a year we try to sit down and talk, and she helps me understand altruism and why I'm doing this. And then for my get shit done person, it's Sharon Clark, the head volleyball coach over at Butler University. Again, think about this. 2 years ago, I was driving a truck. I didn't know these people. You know what I mean? Now look.
Divine timing. I always say that.
One of the people that I talk to a lot is Bob Osley, our city councilman. Again, I would have never thought I'd be talking to someone like that. I got invited to the mayor's luncheon 2.5 weeks ago. Huge thing, 708 people downtown. Money, I mean, like the real money.
Long money.
Yeah.
Old money.
And it was such an honor because I didn't get mentioned, I wasn't there to get mentioned. They were really there for any Parks Foundation was doing anything, but Riverside Park was the main topic. It was the whole fundraising thing.
I'm glad you mentioned Indy Park. Will they're doing this big thing with the red line.
Yeah.
Will it be running? Okay.
Not over there. They're going to have better bus services. That's the other part of the whole Red Line project is to not only do the Red Line, but then to improve the efficiency and the frequency of all the other buses.
That's why I was.
Yeah.
I was
so now that will be effective because we have a lot of bus line over there.
Yeah, because
even my street is a bus line, but the Red Line won't be over there.
Because because there have been times where I have actually thought about, you know what, I really don't feel like jumping on a bus. Don't feel like driving. I just want to just be able to get, kind of like, in Chicago, you can just jump on the on the metro, the train or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's not because you don't have a vehicle, but sometimes you just want to be able to just go get on something.
Right. Yeah, like have different events around the city.
And you don't have to worry about trying to find parking. Yeah. You don't have to worry about paying $20 to put your vehicle somewhere for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. You don't have to worry about trying to get from your vehicle to the venue.
And that's interesting you say that too, because you made me think about something else you asked, that same question you asked about getting noticed. So, like you said, Riverside Park has been ignored for a very long time.
It does.
Because of the neighborhood, because of the park, and, and the whole...
The history.
Yeah, what I mean? And people's perception of it, whether right or wrong, is the perception of it. So now, since we've been staying involved and staying active, we're not doing any amazing things. We're slowly getting stuff up. All of a sudden now we have the bike share program. Hey, can we put one over here at Riverside Park? We have Indigo telling them, how can we improve this little area over here? You know what I mean? Like, we have people who are coming in and saying, how can I help? How can I help? Because you guys are actually, we see what you're doing. You know what I mean? And now organizations are coming in and wanting to get involved. And we did little things. So we did the indie cleanup. We clean up. And I said, we need to take a step further. I don't like the fact that every time in the black neighborhood, there's always something to do with sanitation and cleaning up all the time.
Right.
What happened to beautification? My daughter made a comment. We were driving around with her friends. She said, whenever I drive around this neighborhood, all I ever see is like what? I see death.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean? She goes, I see liquor stores. I see police cars. I see, addicts. That's all I ever see is death. And so what, when I go to other neighborhoods.
Dollar stores.
Yeah, dollars, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's like everything, funeral homes. You saw you ever see. It's like, why don't, I like going to, not just to businesses, but then, vacant lots and dumping. And it's just like, nobody cares anymore. Drop it and go. And she said, it's interesting. We don't spend any time putting maybe, and we have tons of community gardens. She said, what happened to just having a floral garden? Mm-hmm. What happened to, having something fixed up? So we decided we're going to try to focus this year on supporting the people who are doing the cleanups. But then for our own organization, we're going to start having an area where we beautify the area. And on top of that, we're looking to try to find seniors who may have some issues, get stuff fixed around their houses. So between us, some of the neighborhood associations, and also Groundwork Indy, we're going to try to go in each month and find a senior's home that we can fix up. And, so they're not paying the money out for, so things like that. That, like you don't know what it can blossom into. It might be a simple street cleanup, but next year it might be a neighborhood cleanup. The next year it could be, a beautification. Next year it might be actually building something, a pocket park. You never know what you can do. So, but the main thing is to do something. Don't just sit and don't listen to what I'm saying or what you're saying and say, oh, that's great. You sound, no, do something. I mean, everyone needs to do something. It's still our neighborhood. It's the only way that we're going to get any credit to our kids and to ourselves is to get involved. And you can't wait for somebody to do what you have to do. I mean, I got asked, and I could have easily said no.
And you just asked.
And I went, and I had no idea what happened January 2017 was going to turn and where I'm at right now.
Well, everyone has been officially asked by Ronald Rice to get involved. So you have no excuse.
I will say that I want to reach out to, again, the ladies of True Black Girl Magic and True Black Girl Magic Indiana chapter. We always talk about our community involvement and wanting to raise awareness and be involved and more active in the community. I know that we have our annual purse drive coming up, and I know that we wanted to do something more. We wanted to make it more of a community day. So I'm going to beseech my sisters of True Black Girl Magic and of True Black Girl Magic Indiana if maybe we can partner with Riverside Park and do something actually within the park. We wanted to wait until it was warm. We wanted to do something on a larger scale, so why not make it happen? I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
For coming in and telling us today about what it is you do.
Mm-hmm. And I will
bring
be
awareness.
Just kind of quick advertising for the park, and this is free. Starting next Tuesday, every Tuesday and Thursday, I and the assistant manager of the park will be teaching P90X classes from 6:30 to 7:30 at Riverside. My daughter is teaching young girls hip hop dancing every Friday from 4:30 to 5:30.
Okay.
We have martial arts there for free. Sundays,
Really?
yeah, on Saturdays. Come at 1:30. Pastor Shepard is the teacher. Wonderful man, wonderful class. It's there for free. So bring your kids. You can go. There is line dancing there. There is chair aerobics there. There are basketball programs for little bitty kids and teenagers. We're trying to do some programs since Riverside High School is there now, and we have a lot of those kids walking back and forth to school and then walking through the park. And we need to get stuff for those kids. Otherwise, they're going to end up in houses that they don't need to be in. Or they're going to be, again, some of the problems that led to what happened to the park in the first place.
Right.
So we're trying to give them things to do in those hours before their parents get home or they're at their home, so they're not just caught up, because we've been watching a lot of those girls are walking off of boys, or the boys are walking off of girls, and then next you know, you got all the other situations that happen in our community. I'm like, okay, so she does the hip hop classes just for girls, so it's kind of gets them away from some of the bad influences, but then also she teaches them how to dance and actually take pride in themselves. Right. So actually, who knows, that might help that one young girl who's got a low self-esteem and becomes dependent on some boy that to be that answer for him, and that boy don't know what the hell he's doing. You don't want that person to be there. So we've got some girls there who actually want to see these girls do well and not get in all the trouble that's we've been accused of. You know what I mean? So, but there's so many different programs, and they're teaching self-discipline in martial arts, self-control, executive decision-making, and people don't realize that those are things you learn in martial arts. It isn't just to learn how to fight. A lot of these kids have behavioral issues because of the way dojos are set up. Those kids have to learn how to control their emotions. They have to learn how to keep themselves in line. They have to learn how to make an executive decision. There's a difference between a kid going out with 4 or 5 other kids and they're like, hey, let's go break into this house. And I don't know. Well, just come on anyway. But when you're in karate or whatever, you have to make an executive decision right there. And these kids can actually make a quicker decision and say, you know what, same for me, and go. You know what I mean? So we're giving free programs, free martial arts. Why are we not taking these classes? You know what I mean?
Because we don't know.
No. Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay, so keep your eyes open. We're going to be posting some links on the This Thing Called Life page. We're also probably going to be posting them on our individual pages because we need y'all to know. So the KD page, This Thing Called Life, probably going to share it to wind down.
Indie business.
Yeah, definitely our indie business group. And the men from the crew, we need some of you to come out. We need some of you to definitely get involved. This is very informative. Some stuff I've been here off and on for years, and a lot of what you've said I didn't know. Even in our conversations together, you've still been able to give me even more information. So I just want to thank everyone who has taken time out of their evening to join us here as we have shared and we have learned and gotten a lot of useful information. We have. And so
I'm looking forward to passing it on.
I was about to say, so that means now that there's some steps and some things that we need to do.
That we're going to be putting boots on the ground. So
there's things that we need to do.
Well, if you can, give them my email too. If anyone wants to know of any kind of program or just one in general, I'm more than happy to answer your email. So I'll spell it for you. I'll say it first.
Are you still open? Well, you can type it in, or do I need to?
Yes, it's chigung32@gmail.com, but it's spelled CHIGUNG.
I remember that.
32 at gmail.com. You can. I don't care what the subject is. If you want to talk about want to know what's happening here, maybe I may know someone that can direct you to where you can go in your own neighborhood, or if you're on the west side. First of all, every program we have is open to anybody. It's not just residents in the area. Okay. So let's get that out in the open right there. And not everything costs. A lot of stuff is free, but also too, we want to support our parks and support the programming. And so if it's something that's paid for, don't be discouraged by that. Actually, be encouraged by that, because you're supporting another black business or Hispanic business or white business or whatever in that neighborhood. That's going to benefit everybody. So
right. And on that note,
I'm sorry, I'm talking too much.
That's okay.
That's
what you do.
This is what I do.
So we just want to thank everybody, and again, we want you to get out there and just get involved. And as he said, just show up. You'd be amazed at just the difference that just showing up will make. So you have just had a wonderful evening with us as we have branched out and we are on both stations now.
2 out of 3.
You're right. 2 out of 4.
2 out of 4.
We're on half the stations.
Yes.
We're on half the stations now. So I just want to thank everybody and ask you to tune in next week, next Wednesday evening, on this thing called
Life.
Good night.
Yes, yes. We appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to tune in. And we look so forward to being able to share with you guys on next week. And we've got a pretty hot topic that's going to be coming up. And, you'll see about that real soon. And the week after, it's going to be really, really hot because we're going to be talking about skin folks versus kin folks.
Oh, Lord.
It can go any direction with that one. So we will talk with you all soon. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we will catch you next week on this thing called life. Peace and blessings.